So today we are going to be taking a distant look into the past with a video that is almost 9 years old by this point. This is my very first Zelda video I ever did. My second video ever on the channel. I will be reacting to my very first video that I ever made at some point, but it has a really cringeworthy JonTron impression in it, so we're gonna unpack like all of that like at some later point. But for now, we're going to just kind of, I analyzed a few other people's YouTube videos and their old thoughts on Zelda, so I was like, I want to take a look at my old thoughts on Zelda, the very second episode of Really Freakin Clever, and see what I still agree with, see if there's anything I can kind of like expand on and like talk more about now that I've had, you know, almost 9 years of having my brain cells obviously get smarter, obviously not getting burnt out or anything like that. So yeah, let's do it. Let's hope I'm smarter than I was 9 years ago and watch Really Freakin Clever on The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past. The classic intro music. Wait, can you guys hear this at a good amount?
The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past. A classic, if there ever was one.
Any of you that were here from the very beginning? Why? Why did you not hear that audio quality and then run away? That was literally on like a headset microphone that this was recorded on. I don't know how I got away with that. I don't think anyone could get away with that today. I shouldn't have gone away with this in 2013. You would die on the spot if you tried this on YouTube now. But somehow I wasn't driven off this website. So brace your ears. Let's continue.
To the Past. A classic, if there ever was one. After a wildly groundbreaking first game and a decent, though somewhat odd, follow-up, the Zelda series had come to its crossroads with the launch of the Super Nintendo. Would it merely seek to improve on its predecessor's legacy, or would it strive to make its own path? The answer, it seemed, was a mixture of both, perfecting the first game's established formula while introducing series standards such as parallel worlds, multi-tiered dungeons, and of course, the Master Sword. Now, the gameplay, incredibly polished, the sense of adventure, unmatched, and the amount of secrets to uncover numbered in the hundreds. But for all its praise, there is one facet of Link to the Past that is often overlooked, and that is its emotional core.
Its emotional core. Okay, that was the most, like, this is my introductory paragraph for my 5-paragraph essay in high school. This is the most I am making an important video on Link to the Past. But in my defense, in past Josh's defense, there wasn't as much of this stuff on YouTube as there is now. There wasn't a video essay on like every single video game. I wasn't the first to like try and analyze like Zelda game design or anything like that, but it definitely was a much less crowded market. So I'm gonna give myself a little bit of slack if it comes off a little bit dated or antiquated or anything now, because it was 2013. There was like sequelitis going on, the occasional super in-depth thing on Dark Souls, and probably a bunch of other super influential creators that I'm just forgetting at the moment. But yeah, good opening paragraph, Josh. Good going.
So, the game opens with a few ominous messages from Zelda and your uncle before throwing you straight into your adventure. None of those constant tutorials the Skyward Sword delighted in.
No! Oh no! Even I was infected with the curse back then. You can't talk about Zelda in the early 2010s without bashing Skyward Sword, I guess. Oh no. I'm gonna get canceled. you shouldn't dig up your old content. This is what'll happen. You're gonna find out you said some very outdated things about Skyward Sword. Oh no. I gave Egoraptor so much crap. Oh no.
All you need to know is that the princess is in the castle and she needs saving. The tone is immediately set by the music and rainfall, but reinforced by the way the game subtly pushes you towards the castle. None of these guards can be attacked or passed, and just refer to you as kid. It makes you feel weak, small. There's no way directly into the castle, and you eventually find yourself slinking in through a hidden passage under a bush.
Okay. Again, like, there's a maybe I'm just, like, super overly critical because I just write differently now, but, like, it feels a bit like too, I don't know why, is too essay-like even a critique? I don't know, but anyways, it still feels like a bit off to me. Maybe that's just a personal thing, looking back on my old work. No one likes to do that, but I do like the emphasis I kind of had in earlier episodes of Really Freakin Clever, where it was really specific, like, design choices that I honed in on. And yeah, those, like, guards at the very opening of Link to the Past, I do still really enjoy that the game doesn't, like, it doesn't super handhold you. Like, there's only one spot you can go, but it doesn't, like, super handhold you in that direction. And there's just, if you go outside, it's all dreary, super rainy, and yeah, there's just these, like, douchebag guards that, like, don't treat you that nice and just say, like, go home, don't have an adventure, don't do it. And so of course that makes you, like, want to have an adventure. You're a kid, you're in a video game, you're not really gonna get punished or anything, so you're like, frig you, stupid guard head, I'm gonna slink into the castle, break my legs, fall down a hole.
Not the most glamorous of entrances, and even after you've gotten your sword, that's all you have to defend yourself with. Meanwhile, the palace is swarming with guards of every color, the easiest of which still require 2 hits to kill.
I'm sorry, wait. Can I just get that on screen? That amazing editing?
Meanwhile, the palace is swarming with guards of every color.
Look, guys. It's fine. I'm not canceled after all. Look. We're good. I don't know if I should be more upset at the joke or... God, this Sony Vegas editing we got going on here. Look at that. Just, ooh, the A's going over top of the R. We got no drop shadow. There's no, like, outer kind of inking or anything to give just a bit of standing out against the background. Not good. Not good. Oh. This is graphic design so bad it might be racist, actually. Despite it saying not. So, let's continue.
The easiest of which still require 2 hits to kill. Hell, getting the boomerang halfway through doesn't even help your chances much, considering it merely stuns the enemies. The result of this design is that, although the game is not based around stealth, the player at least has a feeling of dread and a desire to be extra careful while making their way to Zelda's cell.
So, this, I'm being, like, a little bit over dramatic here. Like, this is, but this was just, like, of the era. Like, it's making, like, big, like, objective statements about this thing. So it's like, this design choice specifically makes you feel, like, super small and a feeling of ominous dread. And, like, that's a little bit dramatic, but, like, I still agree with the core idea. Like, I think what I was going for more so is that, like, you can stun enemies with the boomerang, but your sword doesn't do, like, a huge amount of damage, and even the weakest enemies, except until you, like, start running into the mice whenever you get through the sewer stuff later, but all the enemies you initially, like, encounter in the castle take at least 2 hits, and they, like, the combat against the knights, specifically in Link to the Past, is very based on, like, bouncing off the enemies and, like, getting them away from you. Do I have footage? Yeah.
Require 2 hits to kill. Hell, getting the boomerang halfway.
Okay, you didn't. He, like, bounced into the torch there, but, like, when you hit an enemy, they, like, kind of ricochet off you and then, like, come charging back, and then so you hit them again. But it always takes, like, a couple hits, so it's, oh my god, just making this connection now, it's almost like Dead Man's Volley, or whenever you play a tennis match with friggin' Phantom Ganon, like just lobbing the enemy back until they don't come back anymore. And so I'm building up in this video, spoiler alert, to eventually talking about the Master Sword and how impactful that feels. And that's because combat is so bouncy in these early stages, where you have to keep like, get away, get away, get away, and then finally the enemy like dies. Whereas later on, when you're more powerful, which we'll get into later in the video, you do the one whack and they're gone, and then you feel powerful because you didn't have to do like the multiple things. You did it. You accomplished what you set out to do.
Easiest of which still require 2 hits to kill. Hell, getting the boomerang halfway through doesn't even help your chances much, considering it merely stuns.
But it does, but the boomerang adds like a little bit of extra depth to it, because now you can freeze an enemy in place and then knock them away. So you can manipulate where the enemy is in the room a little bit more, but it's not giving you an actual like damage boost, which I think is really like helps with that like power escalation later.
This design is that although the game is not based around stealth, the player at least has a feeling of dread and a desire to be extra careful while making their way to Zelda's cell. It's interesting to note that the way the castle's basement is designed is deliberately made to be winding and off to the side. It reinforces that feeling of sneaking through enemy territory.
I would agree with that. Like, they do a good job of like, you're skulking through the castle, like the big majesty of like the upper levels, and then like you're kind of going through a side path like underground. There's all these bottomless pits. Like, it's just it's a good opening kind of like mini dungeon type thing.
Enough, you'll have rescued the princess and escaped from the castle, first by sneaking above the soldiers, and then through the dark and desolate sewers. You may be weak, but you sure are resourceful. Then comes the now traditional Zelda structure.
And yeah, like, you are weak, but you do manage to get the princess out. And yeah, once you're going through the sewers, you do start running into some enemies you can beat like with one slash, or that move a bit differently than the knights. So you do feel like you're in like a bit of a different situation, while still letting you feel like more powerful later over the knights once you have to like actively fight them again. And you encounter them a whole lot in the overworld, so you get a lot of time to get used to how they fight with you and like how much damage you do to them. Like, that's locked into your head.
Leaving the princess with the kindly old man in the sanctuary, the player now finds themselves tasked with collecting 3 pendants to awaken the sleeping Master Sword. Over the course of this quest, Link gains a bow and arrow, bombs, and perhaps most impressively, the dashing abilities of the Pegasus shoes.
Ooh.
These allow the player to cross the massive overworld with ease. An overworld, I should add, that mainly contains 2 major enemies, the green soldiers, who, as I mentioned, take 2 sword hits to defeat, and the blue ones, who can take 3 before succumbing to their pixelated wounds. That doesn't sound like much, but after dashing into groups of soldiers time and time again, the exact amount of hits to defeat each soldier will be ingrained into the player's mind.
Yeah, okay, so my script from 9 years ago is actually a bit better than I expected, because I did bring that up. Like, it ingrains it in you. Green soldiers take 2 hits, and the blue soldiers, oh, those sons of bitches, they take 3. That's so much harder than 2. Like, that sounds dramatic, but like, it does get ingrained into you, because those are the most common enemies that you find like every time you go from place to place in the overworld. Like, you're always going to run into a few groups of these guys. Never like too overwhelming, but just, yeah, it really gets into you that like, you just got to keep batting these guys away and they keep coming back. But how many hits they take, it's just, yeah, it gets in your mind. And so whenever it changes later, that's a really big deal.
So, with that subconsciously learned, and with all 3 bosses defeated, it comes time to retrieve the Master Sword. For the second time in the game, the weather is used to set the mood, an eerie fog covering the entirety of the Lost Woods as you make your way to the sword's pedestal. And then, just when the player is feeling elated, finally having their prize, it all falls apart.
All right, so first of all, thank you, Blighter, for the 41 months at Tier 2. That is super, duper appreciated. Thank you so much. And second of all, I wish I'd focused not focused, but I wish I'd maybe like mentioned a bit more about the dungeons and like the build up to the Master Sword, because I like the first three dungeons of Link to the Past are a lot more linear than the rest of the game, but they do like a nice progression of like introducing you to the world, getting you to cross through different parts of it, getting you used to like unlocking different regions of the world. And it does feel like a really nice, grand like adventure to get the Master Sword without ever feeling like too kind of overwhelming or dark or anything like that.
A telepathic message from Sasha Rasha Ding Dong suddenly informs the player that
unironically, revoke. I don't like that joke. Making fun of longer names because you're not used to them. That's lazy humor. Bad joke, Josh. Bad joke.
the sanctuary is under attack. It's the first time the game has broken from calmly suggesting where you go, and while you still technically can wander around leisurely and continue with side quests, the change in tone emphasizes that the player better hurry up and get to the sanctuary. Alas, no matter how quickly you reach your location, you'll always find the same result. Zelda is gone, the old man gravely wounded, just barely able to tell you that Zelda has been taken to the castle before perishing from his injuries. And suddenly, the game's plot and emotions fall into place.
So, super good timing up of the music in your dramatic monologue, past Josh. Good job. Yeah, one of the coolest things I think that's kind of like a unique storytelling thing in games is, especially like in earlier games, you can get very much in a routine and you know like kind of what to expect. You get like just a feeling for the rules of the game. How many hits it takes to defeat certain enemies. How you can travel from place to place. Like, this will usually lead to this. I do a dungeon, and like you get into all these different rhythms. Some like bigger ones, and some like kind of just like little gameplay loops. And you get really used to those things. So whenever a game makes a sudden big change to its structure or changes the way that it's doing its storytelling to you, that's like a way bigger shift than it might be in a different medium, because suddenly you're playing the game differently. Like, you've never been told to rush specifically to a location in Link to the Past until this, and suddenly it's like, oh crap, if they're actually like telling me and like 911 emergencying me to come to this location, like, that's a really big deal. Like, it's not just the plot development, like the game itself has changed now. The rules have changed. And like, yeah, that sounds like a log line for like a blockbuster movie or something, but like, it's true. It makes it feel like big and important.
For the first time, you're not running because of convenience. You're running to avenge the old man who gave you your first heart container and to finally assault the castle, which before seemed impossibly foreboding. The days of sneaking around are over. This time, with the strength of the Master Sword, most of the enemies you've grown accustomed to die after a single blow.
Okay, so I think I'm being a bit dramatic again with the like, you want to avenge the old man. Like, I think like you can, that's part of it, but like, I don't think that's as like huge of a story. Like, I don't think that's as huge of an emotional beat as I'm kind of building up to. But what I'm talking about, the gameplay feeling, I still 100% agree with. Because, yeah, you like, this guy dies, they have the princess, he tells you, look, the princess is in this location, they took her to Hyrule Castle, and you've been there before, but now you have, like, this new weapon, so you are, like, excited and ready to use it, and you know, this is our next dungeon, okay, the game has changed, we gotta do this, and now, yeah, all of the green soldiers, just whap, they are gone. It's not bouncy anymore. It completely changes like how the weapon feels, and it makes you feel more powerful. Like, it works whenever you destroy the flashy barrier that was preventing you from getting to Aghanim's part of the castle earlier, if you ever tried to do that. Like, that's the part that you technically need the Master Sword to get through, but you feel so much more powerful like before that hand, because yeah, you just can walk through and obliterate these guys, where before, like, 2 hits isn't that much more than 1. It's just 1 more than 1. But like not having to double hit every enemy, it just feels so much different when everyone's not bouncing around. They're just falling before your blade. So like, yeah, it does kind of have that feeling of like Link means business now.
And after piercing the wizard's magical barrier, you find yourself in combat with the knights that before you couldn't even attempt to overcome.
And yes, and that is another really nice thing I like about this. A lot of these knights don't even reappear until like Ganon's castle or like Ganon's tower later. But they show like a sudden huge increase in the variety of soldiers you have to fight, because you're breaking into like their sanctum, so there is like some story reasons, but it's like, oh damn, like there is way more powerful enemies out there. It's not just the green and blue guys. Even with my more powerful weapon, I kind of got to deal with these guys too.
This return to Hyrule Castle is a masterpiece in manipulating the player's emotions through gameplay, showing them how far they have come since their journey began, and yet, whenever the sudden transportation to the Dark World is revealed, showing just how far you have left to go. The enemies in this new world are more grotesque, have crazier ways to attack, and can take even more damage from the Master Sword. But with that boost...
And yeah, that's the thing, is everything we've said before now would be impressive if it was building up, like if that was the end of the game, if there was only 3 dungeons and then you got the Master Sword and then, one last thing, they got Zelda, like that would still be really cool, but, oh shoot. Oh, I'm completely blanking. I read something in chat. Sorry. But on top of that, like there's an entire other 2/3 of the game left to go. And so you felt that much more powerful, but then you also see, oh man, there is like such a long road ahead of me. Like there's double the amount of dungeons that I've done before left. There's all these new enemy types. Some of them take even more hits than enemies would take with my original sword, and I have a super powerful sword now. Like it's just so good at making the adventure like feel like you're progressing a lot, but it's also like it is an epic quest. This isn't just a little quest. It's an epic one.
And confidence gained from defeating the wizard once, the player is certain that when the time comes, they'll be able to finish the job once and for all. So, in the end, does Link to the Past get enough recognition for the way it portrays its story and thus gains the player's attachment? Well, console Zelda titles that followed tended to be more cinematic and thus more direct in their depictions of the legend, and that's a trend that likely won't be slowed down anytime soon.
Let me introduce you to a couple of games called Link Between Worlds and Breath of the Wild 2013, Josh. I think you would love them if you gave them a shot. I wish time travel was a thing. Wouldn't that be nice? Wouldn't that be nice if I could just blow 18-year-old Josh's mind with Breath of the Wild? God.
But even with all our high-tech consoles and the promise of more complex storylines in the future, it's important to remember where we began, where the tale of a boy's journey to save the world could be told with only 16-bit sprites, chiptune music, and a whole lot of heart and great game design. My name's Josh C. Joshua, and that is Really Freakin Clever.
Ooh, we hadn't quite got the catchphrase down yet. Okay. Get that outro music.
If you like this episode,
oh God, no, not old. I mean, please, if you liked this episode, hit the subscribe button and the like button or whatever the heck they want you to do on YouTube that helps now. I mean, sure, do that. But hey, he said the name of the show. It's true. But no, overall, I think that video still holds up. The audio quality doesn't necessarily. And there is some stuff that I like cringe a little bit now, but like if you're watching something you did like almost a decade ago and you're not cringing a little bit, that'd be kind of sad, right? That, like, but a little cringe is good. Embrace the cringe.